Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to trèSci Weekly, episode 4. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Ullman, alongside the man responsible for the Mid-Atlantic Rift, Tom K.
That's debatable, but thanks for having me on the show.
What's going on,
because
man?
I'm always your guest.
That's
Glad
true.
to be here.
That's true. What's going on, man?
Doing well. I'm very excited about this show. A lot of good science news in the past week.
Yeah, this was an odd week. A lot of space news this week.
Yes.
So we're the lineage between the stories is going to flow pretty nicely, I think. Yeah, weird week, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, a lot of good news came out of it anyway.
Definitely. What else has been going on? Anything new?
Recently watched The Planet Earth over the weekend.
That's right. You and I got together.
Yes, we did that together.
Yeah.
But other than that, same old, same old.
Yeah. Want to give a quick shout out to what we did after the Planet Earth episode 2. Joking Hazard? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, the game. Yeah.
Oh my god. Joking Hazard. If you haven't played this game, it's like it's a board game. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like a little card game of comics. And it's like, what's that other card game?
Cards Against Humanity.
Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
It's like that, but I like it more.
It's way better. Like I'm pretty outspoken about not liking Cards Against Humanity. This game, Joking Hazard, it's awesome. Play it if you get a chance. Yeah. Other than that, week was pretty smooth. Went to my sister's baby shower on Saturday. That was nice.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of people. A lot of people I haven't seen in a long time. A lot of people asked about you, actually.
They're curious.
I was like,
well, we're doing this.
Yeah, it's kind of nice I could bring this up. I was like, he's fine. You know, we're we're not married, but we're in love. We're not married.
We're not married.
Yeah. Nah, that's cool though. So yes,
we have Nash and James in the chat.
Welcome back, guys.
Make sure if you are just watching, make sure you're signed in with your YouTube account, right? So you can chat with us.
Yes, definitely.
Because otherwise you're just gonna sit there all alone. No, I'm just kidding. But okay.
Nobody wants to be alone. So welcome back to the show.
This is number 4.
Number 4. If you're just joining us for the first time, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you guys being here. Just so you know, this show is a weekly video show. I've been calling it a podcast. It's really not a podcast.
It's like a video podcast thing.
It's a video series where Tom and I will discuss science news topics and how we feel about them. You can watch this show live every Monday night.
Just like we are now at 8:30.
Exactly. If you miss the live show, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You can watch the show for free on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
You know,
It'll
immediately
be up
following.
right after. Yeah.
Just post right to YouTube, which is nice. You can be part of the show, like we said, by signing in and chatting with us during the live performance. Or if you would rather tag us and share with us your science news articles that you'd like us to commentate about,
it's
feel
nice.
free to do so.
I look at a lot of science news just on my own, and then getting tagged by my friends, family, kind of gets what they're looking at too.
Yeah.
So I've been involved with a lot of different science news, so it's cool.
Definitely. And of course you can support us by hitting that little subscribe button on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. I hate having to say on our YouTube channel because you can't get a URL, like an explicit one, until you hit 100 subscribers, which is totally backwards to me. It's like, how am I supposed to direct people to our YouTube channel if I don't have a nice little, thing to tell them? So right now it's like just a bunch of ugly letters and numbers, but once we hit 100, I'll be able to say youtube.com/trèSci Weekly. That's not what it is yet, but with your help,
right?
we can get there.
We could have a real URL.
Other than that, you can like us on Facebook. That one we have, facebook.com/trèSci Weekly. You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/trèSci Weekly. You can even donate us money if you'd like, patreon.com/trèSci Weekly. I explained it last week, but I'll explain it again. Patreon is a crowdfunding subscription-based website, so you can pledge $1 to us, and $1 will go directly from you to us each month. But what's nice is you can pull out at any time, right? So if we suck and you don't want to give us $1 anymore, then don't. Yeah, and of course the show is always for free, so don't worry about it.
All right,
Tom. We have. Let's see. I kept adding news stories, even though I said there wasn't a lot of news.
So we got 6 stories this week.
We got 6 real stories, but before we jump into that, I just wanted to let our audience know that we were watching some of the Bernie Sanders, Bill Nye talk.
Yeah, so they went live on Facebook somewhere around 12-ish, I think, in the afternoon, and they went live just as a conversation on climate change.
Mm-hmm.
So just before this, we were kind of watching it, and we had a lot of different opinions, as you would assume, like, that you wouldn't think probably, because you and I both like Bernie Sanders and Bill Nye. We think that what they stand for is correct regarding the scientific community, but I think at the same time, they have a hard time not just saying the same thing over and over again to the same people who are continually watching them without reaching the broader audience of Republicans and other people to get the right ideas across.
Yeah, I agree. You were kind of filling me in. I was not really even privy to the fact that they were doing this today. So when you showed me some of this replay video, I just couldn't help but feel like there was tension actually between them, which is ironic because they're kind of saying the same thing, both of them, but together on camera, wasn't feeling it. Really wasn't.
Yeah, their chemistry was a little off, and I think it's kind of like Bernie Sanders. He always talks about scientists, right? These scientists, and 97% of climate scientists, and then he has a science figure right next to him, and it's almost like, how do still people not believe me? And he gets like frustrated, and it gets like kind of back and forth. You know what I mean? It's he just gets frustrated. Like how else can we put it to get people to, listen to us?
Yeah. Well, we were saying, I think unfortunately, like, they had millions of viewers, which is great.
Yeah, they got millions of views.
But I don't think they changed anybody's opinion on believing in climate change because those millions of viewers already they already know what's going on.
Before they clicked on Bill Nye and Bernie Sanders, they knew exactly what they were getting into. As James says in the chat, their chemistry was off. Something about it was not really working out for them, and it's tough because these are like the last two people standing up for what's right. Yeah, and it's tough to see them struggle a little bit on camera. Yeah, but that's okay.
But valiant effort either way.
They're going to keep doing their thing. Yeah, I would recommend listening to both of them in the future. They got good stuff to say.
I do like both of them, and I agree. I think they have important things to say, but I just take what they say with a grain of salt also, because
he did get a little questionable at some times in that interview, kind of like get you to believe with the last ditch effort, maybe we'll throw this at him, and it was kind of going out of left field for a little while.
Every once in a while it's like it almost feels like opposite propaganda, where it's like
now they're just trying to spit other stuff at you.
It's a little too much for me, but nonetheless we shall move forward, right? So with that, let's get
right into the news.
Let's do it. All right. Number 1. NASA held a press conference on Wednesday afternoon, February 22nd, announcing some extraordinary details about the exoplanets discovered within the TRAPPIST-1 system. I'm going to stop right there.
Okay.
Did you watch the press conference?
I did.
Did you watch it live?
Yes.
Baller. Me too.
You did? Okay.
Yeah. All right, cool.
I saw it on Twitter.
Yeah.
They tweeted when it was going live. I was like, all right. I was eating cereal on the couch.
It was nice. I was like, ooh, this is right up our alley. This is something we should cover.
Breaking news, I
would have watched it anyway. I'm a huge dork. All right. A record 7 Earth-like planets have been found orbiting TRAPPIST-1, an ultra-cool dwarf star located approximately 40 light-years away.
So I just want to mention it's an ultra-cool dwarf star. That means very cold, not really cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He's just wearing shades, Yeah.
He's just cool. Okay.
All right. 3 of the 7 exoplanets in the system lie within the habitable zone of the host star, which is defined to be the area around a star where liquid water could potentially exist on the surface of an orbiting body. The discovery of 3 exoplanets was initially reported by the Transiting Planets and Planetesimal Small Telescope in Chile back in May of 2016, and that's where TRAPPIST gets its name from. It's an acronym.
That acronym for that.
Transiting Planets and Planetesimal Small Telescope. NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope, along with several ground-based telescopes, confirmed the existence of 2 of those 3 planets, as well as confirming an additional 5, bringing the grand total up to 7. Exciting details have already been confirmed, such as the fact that all 7 planets are in relatively close orbits to one another, so an observer standing on the surface of one of the planets could likely see surface features of the others in the sky.
That is very cool.
That is cool. More exciting details, such as the composition of any atmospheres or signatures of water being present, are expected to be discovered when NASA's James Webb Space Telescope is launched in the latter part of 2018. We have a video, and video credit, of course, goes to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, if you would thumb on over to that video for me and play it up.
Get right into it.
Get on into it. I'll give you a bud.
Hear what's going on. And these are all artist renditions as of now?
Yeah, so we don't actually know what
their surface features
are. We found 7 rocky, Earth-sized planets, all of which could potentially have liquid water.
All of them can have liquid water.
For me, it's mind-blowing. The first time I saw what the system had in it, I just was like, you gotta be kidding me. And then I looked at the data myself, I'm like, yeah, there they all are. It's just, I would have never predicted this. It's beyond, anything I could have ever dreamt of.
I felt super excited, amazed by the existence. The very existence of the system was a kind of shock.
Another artist rendition of what
we're
it would be
standing
like
on one of
the
these
surface.
planets, you'd actually see a lot of them sort of in the sky, whipping by on these very short orbital periods.
So there's still much to learn.
It is an
there always is.
fantastic discovery.
Cool.
And that was from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Correct.
Video straight from them.
So most of those people in this video, though, were at the press conference. So they were kind of the ones on stage, if you will,
Yes.
announcing the details. So it's cool that they give this nice little video as well. This was nice because it kind of just summarizes what we just said about it. But I'm more interested in asking you, Tom, how you feel about the way NASA made this announcement, right?
Yeah, so they said a few days before, right? They gave us a little teaser like NASA will make an announcement. They said that, and then they came out and made a big announcement. They were proud of their discovery. They thought that people would, they were trying to hype it up. They thought people would really like this discovery because I think it is an amazing discovery.
Yeah.
And I like the way they went about doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's an impressive enough discovery that warranted that extra, press conference type thing, not just a random article in a science journal. Like this is something everybody should know about.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed?
I think in a vacuum, this is totally warranted for NASA to embargo all of the science journals, come out and make a splash and say, hey, we found this. This is awesome. You should know about it. I was kind of asking you, though, earlier, how many of these press conferences does NASA get to do, let's say, in a given year, right? Because it's only February, and
They already came out with a huge story, and
yeah. So what do you think? I mean,
are you kind of saying that you think they might go this way with their future discoveries? In this manner, if they're warranted enough? Yeah.
So I think they should, right? I think NASA should take the stage and really kind of give people something to be hyped about. I really firmly believe if we're going to change anybody's mind about scientific discovery, that's the way to do it, is to get people really, really excited about it when there's a big announcement to be made. I just worry that although this is a substantial piece of news, there's not much behind it. There's a lot of possibility, but there's not much behind it, right? It's like there is the possibility that maybe some of these planets could be potentially habitable for human life, and maybe there is life already existing on them, and maybe there's water there, and maybe there's maybe there's all these things, but we don't really know any of that for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing, though, I think we can definitively say is that we've never had another solar system with that many planets found before, right? Like, that many rocky Earth-like planets.
Yeah, so all 7 are said to be terrestrial Earth-like planets, correct? And they're all relatively close to the sun. They're actually all within the orbit of Mercury around our sun.
Their sun, just to be clear.
Yeah,
their sun.
Their
not
sun.
Our sun. Yeah.
Yes. So all the planets are really close to that sun, and they're all rocky, right? So it's like you were saying, it's a super impressive discovery just because of what it is.
Yeah.
It's very different from what we've seen before. Having 7 rocky planets all orbiting close to a sun where potentially, given the right atmosphere and things, all of them could potentially have liquid water on them.
Yeah.
It's almost like if they were to fake it, like, you know, like this is the perfect one to find.
Yeah.
You know, it's this solar system with all this awesome stuff.
Yeah. So I thought it might be fun, right, to do a little bold predicting. Right?
Like, as these the James Webb telescope comes into place and they get more information, these are our predictions of what might happen.
Right. So, Kyle, if you wouldn't mind just bringing up the image of the
planets,
the TRAPPIST-1 image there. And I'll go first if you don't mind.
Yeah. What do you think?
So I think, right, and just to be clear, these are shots in the dark, right? We have no insider information, or we haven't looked at any data or anything like that. I predict that there is at least one more Earth-sized rocky planet within the TRAPPIST-1 system. At least one more.
Okay.
Maybe not within the habitable zone, but at least one more that they'll find, bringing the grand total up to at least 8.
Okay.
I predict that initially signatures of water or water vapor are found on 3 of the 7 that have currently been discovered. Only one of them within the habitable zone, right? So maybe, what are we saying here? E, F, and G, those are the ones in the habitable zone?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say E.
So you're saying one of them. Okay.
Yeah, one of them has signatures of water vapor. And I'm going to say, upon further investigation, we don't really find that any of these planets could sustain our type of life. I think that's what we find out of this system.
Yeah. So I like the idea of making predictions on this type of stuff because it makes you think about it a little bit differently. So the implications, one way or the other, are huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of what you're saying. If none of them have, if we conclude that none of these planets in this system that has 7 Earth-like planets, 3 in the habitable zone, that if we don't find like serious signs of life, like if we know there's liquid water and there's organic matter and we can say for sure that there's life, if we can't say that for an amazing star system like this, where there's so many Earth-like planets so close to the star in such a good distance away to be around liquid water and have the same type of chemistry our planet would have, and if it's almost like I would lose hope as a person from the outside. Like, this was the press conference, you know, this was the big 3, as if it was LeBron, like this is where all the hype's in.
Yeah.
And now if it falls short, it's like it falls flat really hard.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 in the zone where you look for the water.
Yeah.
And it's like the Goldilocks of the systems that we found. So I think it would be a huge letdown if in the future we don't see good signatures for life with these further experiments and telescopes.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I may sound kind of down, right? I may sound like not very hopeful in my predictions, but I'm just setting realistic expectations, I think. It's like, hey,
Yeah, this is
Not-
an amazing discovery. I totally agree, but we don't have to get exact signs of life from this.
Not every system is going to be the one that's going
The
to...
one.
Yeah, the one,
As
right?
they say, yeah.
Exactly. Not every system is going to be the one, and we shouldn't lose hope when the first one that is really plausible to be the one isn't the one, right? It's kind of like falling in love.
Yes.
It's a little bit like falling in love.
So a little bit from the chat. Kayla mentioned that it was on the front page of Newsday. She also says that John is a realist. And James mentioned if the planets are that close to each other, they must have massive tides. So they are really close. You would see,
a good point.
they said you could see surface features of them in the night sky. And planets that are the closest together, the planet would look bigger than our moon would, the closest planets together in the night sky.
It's good. It's
So
true.
it would be a really cool looking solar system to point out, and there would be some crazy interactions between the planets, like James said, with tides and things because of how close together they
Yeah.
were. Be interesting.
It would be very active geology, I'm sure. It would have to be,
Yes.
which would be interesting.
And then we got another question from Carrie Cleta. He said, what distance is a star in relation to our understanding of the size of our galaxy? So how far away is this star system?
This star system is approximately 40 light years away from us.
Yeah, I think it's a hair below 40 light years.
Yeah, so that means that light or any radio transmissions that come from that system, we're actually looking 40 years ago when we observe it. So light travels at a finite speed, and that means that light leaving the surface of, let's say, the TRAPPIST-1 star takes 40 years approximately to reach us.
Okay, and then let's think about the scale of the whole universe. How, like, I've read in a lot of articles that it's relatively close.
Right. So that seems like a
Like
very
30
far
light
away.
years seems like
Yeah.
way out there.
So just to contrast, the closest star to us, Proxima Centauri, is about 4 light years away.
so our closest star,
4 to
so this
5.
is only like 10 times further than the closest star to us.
Exactly. So
But 40 light years is extremely far away, but at the same time, it's really not astronomically.
right
It's-
within our neighborhood,
Okay.
in terms of like stars that are close to us.
Sounds good.
So yeah, that's a great question. Okay, let's move on a little bit. There's kind of a follow-up to this story. So, just for closure, the SETI Institute, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence
Yeah, I
Institute.
mean, they have to get involved with something like this, right?
Yeah,
We're
so-
looking for life, so.
What's interesting is they already were, right?
Oh, they were a part of this when they first found these planets.
Correct.
Okay.
So they reported on conducting a survey of radio frequencies in order to see if we can hear any transmissions being broadcast from the TRAPPIST-1 system. Senior astronomer Seth Shostak writes, quote, "The SETI Institute used its Allen telescope array last year to observe the environs of TRAPPIST-1, scanning through 10 billion radio channels in search of signals. No transmissions were detected, although new observations are in the offing," end quote. Right? So nothing
Yeah, no
nothing, you know,
transmissions
they're
or
not
anything.
trying to send any information to us if there is intelligent life there, but that doesn't mean that there's not, right? They're going to continue to search for it.
Yes.
So that's cool.
Yeah, so they searched 10 billion channels. They were kind of desperate, you know, but they got nothing out of it.
Yeah. I like SETI, though. SETI is a very cool organization. So
Yeah, it'd be cool to work for the search of extraterrestrial life,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like, I work there.
Cool. Shall we move on?
Yeah, I think we're good to move on to the next story.
All right. Number 2. It's been over 10 years since the International Astronomical Union, or the IAU, put forth a formal definition for what a planet is and effectively demoted Pluto. But a recent study by a team of planetary geologists, including Alan Stern and Kirby Runyon, plans to challenge our conventions yet again. The study, titled A Geophysical Planet Definition, argues for a more inclusive definition to the term planet, which would not only deem Pluto a planet again, but over 100 additional objects in our solar system as well. As it stands right now, the IAU defines a planet to be, quote, a celestial body that A, is in orbit around the sun, B, has sufficient mass for its self-gravity to overcome rigid body forces so that it assumes a hydrostatic equilibrium, or nearly a round shape, and C, has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit, end quote.
Okay, so this is what happened 10 years. It's already been 10 years with
I
Pluto.
can't believe it.
I can't believe it's been 10 years either. And the main part for Pluto is that it didn't clear out its orbit, right?
Correct.
And as we're going to be going forward with this, the main point they're trying to make is that why should we define a planet by what it is based on its orbit as over its geophysical properties, right?
Right.
As what actually makes up this body and what it is, as opposed to what its orbit is.
Yep.
So they're trying to change it from that orbital definition to more of the intrinsic geophysical properties of that specific planet. So that's why they're arguing for Pluto to be a planet again. And a lot of their reasoning for it is that they kind of want to draw attention to these objects because Pluto's a cool one that you want to study. So they're saying once you demote it from a planet, it kind of just doesn't shine the bright light on it, as it's still something that we should be actively researching.
Yeah. So to continue, thank you. No, you're absolutely correct. But to continue, according to the study by Runyon and colleagues, however, quote, the planet definition adopted by the IAU in 2006 is technically flawed for several reasons. First, it recognizes as planets only those objects orbiting our sun, not those orbiting the stars or orbiting freely in the galaxy as quote-unquote rogue planets, right? So basically, the planets that we discovered in the TRAPPIST-1 system, they're not technically planets because
they don't orbit
according
us.
to this
Yeah.
definition, they don't orbit our sun. So, that's kind of a dumb thing to put in there.
Yeah.
And then rogue planets, right? So what are those? That would be a planet that gets kind of enough energy to get kicked out of its orbit around its star and is just kind of traveling through interstellar space, just by itself, which is a scary thought. Not a scary thought, but a weird thought. So, second, it requires zone clearing, which no planet in our solar system can satisfy since new small bodies are constantly injected into planet-crossing orbits like near-Earth objects near Earth. That's a weird way to say that.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is we get smaller
there's things that go in
asteroids.
our orbit already, and we're a planet, right?
Right. Smaller asteroids, smaller comets, smaller bits of debris that cross our orbit that Earth hasn't technically cleared, but
That's just
yeah.
That's just the nature of our solar system.
Exactly. And the other argument is that if you were to take Earth and put it in Pluto's orbit, it wouldn't clear any of the debris out there either.
So it wouldn't be a planet out there.
Right.
So yeah, it does seem like a very questionable definition.
It seems like a definition targeted directly at Pluto to make it not a planet anymore.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, somebody had it out to get Pluto.
Yeah.
And Kayla from the chat said, would dwarf planets still be a thing? Or would they all be planets?
So
and the dwarf planets would be considered planets under this new definition.
Yeah, not only dwarf planets, but moons, right?
Moons
Our moon
as well would be a
also
planet.
be a planet, technically.
Interesting, yes.
Finally, and most severely, by requiring zone clearing, the mathematics of the definition are distant dependent, requiring progressively larger objects in each successive zone. For example, even an Earth-sized object in the Kuiper Belt would not clear its zone, end quote, right? So that's exactly like we were saying.
Before. Because as you get further away from the star, you have less gravity influence in general, right? So when you're really far out there, you're not having as much impact. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at, or not really.
So
they're saying it's distant dependent.
Right. So as you get farther from the host star, there is more likely to be smaller and more numerous
debris
that is orbiting. So we have the Kuiper Belt orbiting our sun, and then the Oort cloud, and it's just tons and tons of individual little pieces of debris.
So if you happen to get a planet out there, it couldn't clear its orbit.
It couldn't unless it was huge.
Unless it was really,
right? It would
really
have
big,
to be huge. Okay. So that's a silly definition as well.
So so they're kind of saying that our definition now kind of stinks. Technically, Pluto really is a planet, and
so instead the study proposes a new definition.
Yeah.
Right? Quote, a planet is a substellar mass body that has never undergone nuclear fusion and that has sufficient self-gravitation to assume a spheroidal shape adequately described by a triaxial ellipsoid, regardless of its orbital parameters, end quote. So that's it.
So all they're saying is that it's smaller than the sun. It has never gone nuclear fusion, which is the coming together of atoms to create energy inside of stars.
Yep.
So it never has done that. And it just has to be almost circular, right? It just has to be an almost circular object. And then they said should be the definition of what a planet is.
Mm-hmm. Although this broader definition may seem like just an apology letter to Pluto, the team argues that the new definition will help keep focus on what makes planetary science truly interesting, the features and properties of the planets themselves. Right?
So they're just trying to say that there's a better definition that would include more things, and those are interesting bodies that we should be studying.
Yeah, and I agree with this, and this is going to be a flip-flop in the way I've thought about this, actually. I'm admitting that here. Back in 2006, when they redefined what a planet was and kicked Pluto out of the list of planets, I was kind of just like, well, who cares? Right?
Yeah.
Like, because I get it, because the counter argument is like, well, is everything a planet? You know, because there's so many objects that are Pluto-sized or relatively close to Pluto-sized out there now that, like, what are we gonna have? Just a ton of planets? But
yeah, so
I guess why not? You know?
Yeah, like the article says, I think there's like 110 planets according to this new definition. And in the article, they almost made a point saying we shouldn't dumb down a scientific theory because it's hard to remember all of them if you want to teach kids in grade school about planets. They actually brought this point up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying that, isn't that a crazy thing to redefine a theory so we could teach it to third graders better? Like,
Yeah.
that's so weird to think about.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't even be a worry. If there's 110 planets, there's 110 planets.
Yeah, it's just
Who
it is
cares?
what it is. There's over 100 elements on the periodic table.
Yeah.
There's
We don't get rid of some of those just because.
There's like lots of presidents and lots of states to memorize here in the United States. Like, yeah. So I'm going
for
back.
it?
Yeah.
Are you for or against this? What do you think?
I'm for the change. Yeah,
I am as well. Actually, yeah.
totally for it. Now that I've read over this and thought about it a little
makes
bit more,
sense.
it makes a lot of sense. It's just so arbitrary to define planet by those parameters. Those have no real science going on. So so hopefully that happens. I mean, they were saying like they don't really care.
Yeah, they don't care if they change the exact definition, the proper definition. They're gonna move forward regardless.
Yeah,
and they're just gonna say that these are planets and that's what we're calling them.
Yeah. Chat, what do you think? Should Pluto be a planet again? What do you guys say? Let us know.
It's beautiful. The New Horizons picture with like the heart on it.
Oh, I love it.
Beautiful.
So awesome. Waited, 9 years for that one. Number 3. A lot of space stories.
Yeah.
A lot of space stories.
We got a kind of like an overarching theme though. We've looked at a lot of space articles and we kind of see a story brewing. So stick with us here.
And plus I like space. And it's our show. So
in the chat we got a few yeses. James says no, like a Debbie Downer. Everybody else says yes.
All right. That's what I like to hear. Number 3. NASA has begun a month-long study to assess the feasibility of adding a crew of 2 astronauts to the first integrated flight of the Space Launch System, or SLS rocket, and Orion capsule. Originally planned for an unmanned launch sometime in late 2018, Exploration Mission 1, or EM1, will be the maiden voyage for the SLS Orion duo, and will consist of a 3-week mission with 6 days spent in retrograde orbit around the moon.
So this is a project to send something to be orbiting around the moon.
Correct. A short mission.
Just short retrograde around.
Yep. We'll clip to a video in just a second. That'll give us more kind of a nicer visual about what their mission consists of.
Okay.
According to NASA's website, the study will, quote, review the technical feasibility, risks, benefits, additional work required, resources needed, and any associated schedule impacts to add crew to the first mission, end quote. In addition, quote, the assessment is evaluating the advantages and disadvantages of this concept with regards to short and long-term goals of achieving deep space exploration capabilities for the nation. It will assume launching 2 crew members in mid-2019 and consider adjustments to the current EM1 mission profile, end quote. The Space Launch System is expected to be NASA's successor to the Space Shuttle program, which ended in 2011. The follow-up to EM1, Exploration Mission 2, is already being planned as a manned mission set for August 2021. NASA also plans to develop the Orion capsule to send humans on a journey to Mars sometime in the 2030s. So Kyle, if you wouldn't mind, if we could flip over to that video. Video credit, of course, goes to NASA again for this one. And let me know when you're ready, Tom. I'll give you a bud.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's check it out.
And
My name is
we
Rafael
are
Lugo.
good.
I'm an aerospace engineer, and I work with the team that is looking at the Space Launch System trajectory from liftoff all the way to splashdown.
Groovy.
Very cool.
The project I'm working on is looking at being able to simulate the trajectory of the Space Launch System for Exploration Mission 1 from
There we go.
liftoff to orbit around the moon all the way back to entry, descent, and landing using the heat shield from the Orion capsule. We call that end-to-end. The tools we use are geared towards analyzing different parts of the trajectory, liftoff, orbit, splashdown, and ultimately we'll be able to combine these tools in a seamless integrated analysis so we're able to look at missions using the Space Launch System to other planets, including Mars. What excites me about this project is the fact that the tools I'm using are ultimately going to be able to be used on missions to other planets, other bodies. What I have here behind me is the heat shield for the Orion capsule. The Orion capsule rides at the top of the SLS, and the SLS is basically pushing the capsule all the way to the moon and back, and the heat shield is what protects the capsule during entry, descent, and landing. Join me as we journey to Mars.
All right.
Very cool.
Very cool.
So what stands out to me first from watching it is he's saying that this is a look at how we will get to planets in the future using these new, the new launch system and the way that they're going to approach it. This is sort of like a test run, right? For
Absolutely.
going out and being able to actually go to other planets like Mars. This is sort of like a test run. And now what they were arguing in this one is, should we put people on it?
Right.
Right?
So typically you don't put people on a test run for a new rocket because it's dangerous, right? Rockets often undergo, failures in some of their operations. And I mean, just recently, SpaceX, not the most recent one that we watched.
The one before that.
Yeah, the one before that, SpaceX had a rocket explode on it. So that's typically why you don't crew
These first
a maiden
test
voyage?
things, yeah.
But
I'd be scared if I was on a maiden voyage to space, personally. I don't think I could handle that.
Absolutely. But in breaking news,
Yes. Got this from the inside source.
yeah. Elon Musk announced today that his company, SpaceX, plans to fly 2 private citizens around the moon by late 2018. Supposedly, the individuals have already approached Musk and SpaceX and have even offered to pay for the flight, but for now they still remain anonymous. That's all the details that I could muster up in the closing seconds before we jumped on for this show. But Tom, what do you make of that? Is that a happy coincidence, or what are we seeing here?
So as I first heard the news, it came to me, I was like, this is a space race. You know, you got Elon Musk, a privatized part of the space industry that wants to go up into space with 2 people, and NASA's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, we're not sending people into space, but the private space people are.
Yeah.
Like, this is not okay. So they're reimagining their current missions to see if they can get people on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't want to fall behind in this space race when they're the ones who started it all.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you.
And I think it's great. I love stories like this when Elon Musk is like, I think we're going to do this. And NASA's like, well, you know, he's doing it. We got to do it.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted when private industry got involved in space
really
manufacturing,
pushed it, right?
rocket manufacturing. Yeah, it's really pushing NASA to consider saying, hey, we have to remain on top. We have to. Because if private industry gets a foothold above NASA, it's over. You know,
They're not going to be able to retake it. Yeah, it's over then.
It will privatize the whole industry.
And I think they're feeling the pressure, and I think that this is how these stories relate.
I 100% agree. Very cool.
So now, the next story is a little bit out there, but still along the same lines of trying to send people out into the cosmos.
Yeah, so here we go. Number 4. The United Arab Emirates, or the UAE, has announced the Mars 2117 project, a long-term plan to colonize Mars with 600,000 humans within the next century. The plan was announced by Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan at the 5th World Government Summit in Dubai on February 14th. According to the government of Dubai website, Sheikh Mohammed was quoted as saying, quote, "Human ambitions have no limits, and whoever looks into the scientific breakthroughs in the current century believes that human abilities can realize the most important human dream. The new project is a seed that we plant today, and we expect future generations to reap the benefits, driven by its passion to learn to unveil a new knowledge."
So to me, it kind of looked like they're trying to set the foundation for it to be a platform in their country for many years to come, saying that we're setting up the grounds for research and getting people doing the things that we need to do to get the research moving in towards getting as much as they can, like moving out into space. You know what I'm saying? That they're really just trying to set a foundation, not necessarily the people who are in the positions right now. They're not technically the ones that they're thinking of sending. They're the ones that are setting up the platform, and then they're saying in the future we're going to send people later on down the road.
Correct. That's kind of what I get out of this too. He goes on to say, quote, "The landing of people on other planets has been a long-time dream for humans. Our aim is that the UAE will spearhead international efforts to make this dream a reality," end quote. The summit showcased, quote, "an Emirati team of engineers along with a group of scientists and researchers who have set a concept for the first human city on Mars that will be built by robots. The plan highlighted the expected lifestyle on Mars in terms of transport, power production, and providing food, as well as infrastructure works and materials used for the construction of the city," end quote. So, I agree. They are really looking far ahead, right? This is not for the generations of today.
That's kind of what I was getting
Not
at.
even really our children, right? It's more the long-term generations. Like, hey, we're going to set this up so that you guys got a place to go, I guess.
Yeah, it was also kind of interesting because you were saying that they're a relatively young organization, right?
Correct.
At the United Arab Emirates, they don't have like a long history like NASA. This is kind of a newer thing, right? So are they just spitting out crazy claims, or are they kind of warranted? Do you think they actually have the power to implement all of this and get this project actually moving?
I think they could. I mean, they have the money to do it.
They do, right?
They're a country that is not even 50 years old yet, and to see what they've transformed that area of the world around the Gulf,
it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Insane.
So I wouldn't count them out.
No, I would definitely not count them out. A little unnerving, or a little like not satisfying to me, was the lack of details in this story.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna do this and that, and there's never a how, really.
Yeah.
Just kind of, we're doing it.
And I couldn't even come up with a reason for that number, 600,000 humans
Like,
by
where did they
21.
come up with that?
Like,
Yeah.
why that number is very arbitrary to me. I couldn't find any more information.
It seems just like a big number.
Yeah.
Like 600,000 is like a pretty big number.
Yeah, but I'm hoping more details kind of leak out from that summit to find out. So, back in 2015, the UAE's Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center commissioned the Mars Hope spacecraft, an orbiter that will study the Martian atmosphere and climate, launching in July 2020. We have a video that we can show about that. And video credit for this one goes to Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. Cool. So Kyle, you let me know when you're ready. I'll let you know when I'm ready, and we'll hit play together.
We are good.
We are good.
Your land, and this land
Nope.
is my
Yes.
land.
Oh, you okay?
We got commercials.
Sorry about that, folks. We don't make any money off of this commercial, fortunately.
So this is the video. This is
their video of the Hope spacecraft. This was announced actually in 2015.
Mars is a mysterious planet that's
Okay.
always
So
fascinated
this
people
is
on Earth.
a little bit older.
We still have plenty of unanswered questions.
For instance, we know there is water on Mars, but only in the form of ice and vapor. Water can't exist on Mars as liquid because the atmosphere has become too thin. Oxygen and hydrogen the building blocks of water are being lost into space. We also know that Mars has some exotic weather, like massive dust storms, similar to those on Earth, which are more brief and localized. On Mars, the dust storms can engulf the entire planet and rage on for months.
Our science mission is to produce the first ever truly global picture of the Martian atmosphere. This is the first holistic study of the Martian climate and how the layers of its atmosphere fit together.
We will model the connections between all the different components of the Martian climate, including all the temperatures, winds, dust, and clouds.
Scientists on Earth will use the data that will be sent by the probe to build a complete dynamic picture of the Martian climate. This is something that has never been seen before.
Our data will give the international science community a deeper and richer understanding of the Martian atmosphere.
First, this will help us to model Earth's atmosphere and
like a
how it
movie
will
trailer
evolve
for
with
future
time over
science
millions
research.
of
This
years.
is great.
Second, it will allow us to analyze newly discovered planets far across the galaxy to be able to determine if there is life on it.
We will share the data freely with more than 200 universities and research institutes around the world. This is our contribution to human knowledge.
We want the orbiter to arrive at Mars in 2021, the UAE's 50th anniversary. Earth and Mars align their orbits once every 2 years. So we have a very short launch window in July 2020. We have to be ready by then. There will be no second chance. It's a race against time.
The spacecraft will be launched in the nose cone of a rocket.
The rocket must exceed 40,000 kilometers per hour to break out of Earth's gravity.
The
Right?
Senate
It really is
boosters
like a
and
movie
rocket
now.
motors will fire up.
Seriously,
I've
that's
never
the vibe
seen
I'm
something
getting.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fire its thrusters and accelerate to 100,000 kilometers per hour.
Then the spacecraft will separate from the launcher.
It will unfold the solar panels and point the spacecraft toward the sun to charge the batteries.
The journey across the solar system will take around 7 months. As it travels, the spacecraft needs to figure out its location. There is no GPS in deep space.
So the spacecraft
So
will
7
use star
months to get to
trackers to
Mars.
navigate using patterns of constellations.
This is similar to the way our ancestors used the stars to find their way in the desert and at sea.
When the spacecraft gets close to Mars, it'll have to use its thrusters as brakes. It'll need to slow down to 14,000 kilometers per hour to enter orbit.
This will be a tense time at mission control in the UAE. The thrusters must fire for 30 minutes at precisely the right time. If anything goes wrong, the spacecraft will pass Mars and the mission will fail.
But we can't control the spacecraft in real time
Kyle,
from Earth.
Is that
When it's
possible to do? All right, cool. So, yeah, that's a pretty long video. Sorry about that. But interesting, right? Nonetheless, I think that this could... I like the detail that they give in this mission, and I hope that that moves forward in this, 100-year plan to colonize Mars a little bit. This would be an interesting first step. This would be a very...
Yeah, they were saying they're going to launch this, the thing that they're sending to observe the
Hope spacecraft.
The Hope spacecraft that's going to observe the Martian atmosphere. That's going to launch at the 50th anniversary of the creation of the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
So only 50 years old, and they're already part of the space race of sending things to Mars and stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We're getting stories from left field and right field where people are gearing up for space. And I think as more and more people get word of this, it's going to keep pushing it. And we're really going to see a modern day space race. When we thought it was all done for, we said they're cutting the funding for NASA, but look how it's finding a way to come back.
Yeah, I said this to you earlier, but what I think the UAE is doing here is saying pretty boldly to NASA and other more established agencies like the European Space Agency and JAXA.
We're gunning for you, and
They're
we
like,
have plans. Yeah.
We'll race. We'll race you. Yeah.
We're new guys, but we got money and we got skills.
Yeah.
You know?
So
Andy makes a good point from the chat. He says that's a cool concept, navigating stars becoming the primary means of doing so. Attitudes to what articles and papers were saying in the years leading up to the original space race. Is that, yeah, once you get out past, there's no GPS you can use to like find your way around space.
No.
So it's like the old ways of traveling again.
Yeah.
Until you figure out a better way of doing it.
And I like that they bring up the heritage of you know, the Arab people using stars for navigation purposes in the past. And I like that. I like that they spin that in there.
Yeah, this is a cool video.
It is.
We were a little off-put by the weird music at first, and we didn't think it really fit, but it's like a movie trailer for science research.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
I like it.
All right, number 5.
Number 5. Finally, not a space article. Ryan Nash tagged trèSci.
Shout out to Ryan Nash.
This article, yes, about bees on Facebook, just like you guys can do. And we are going to talk about it.
Let's do it.
Researchers at the Queen Mary University of London have published a new study showing that bees are capable of learning a completely unnatural and foreign task, scoring a goal with a bee-sized soccer ball. To conduct their experiment, the individual bees were pre-trained to know the location of the ball before being tasked with moving it into a designated location. Each time a bee successfully moved the ball into the goal, they were rewarded with sugar water.
So they're trying to teach bees how to score a soccer goal. When they get the ball in the goal, they get sugar water.
Yep.
All right.
And it looks like it's going to be Pizza Crash.
Skull's the goal.
Fascinatingly, the bees that were shown a demonstration of what to do, either by a plastic bee or a bee that had already been trained to perform the task, was able to learn the task much more efficiently than bees who did not receive social instructions. Furthermore, the bees receiving demonstrations did not simply copy the methods of their instructors, but managed to improve upon and solve the tasks more efficiently by using balls placed closer to the goals, even if they were a different color. According to the study by Lucola et al., quote, such unprecedented cognitive flexibility hints that entirely novel behaviors could emerge relatively swiftly in species whose lifestyle demands advanced learning abilities, should relevant ecological pressures arise, end quote. So we have a video.
Yep, you want to check it out real quick?
Yeah, this one's a shorter one, I promise. Sorry.
Check out the bees.
Check out the bees. This is a cool one, actually. I like this story a lot.
Well, the coolest part for me was that if they watched it happen, they learned it quicker. That's pretty awesome. The bees learn. They're learning. Can they score like Beckham? Bend it like Beckham? Anybody see that one?
I never saw that one.
Oh, it's a great one. It's funny, someone just plays the bumblebees at their job.
I wish that was my job. That's awesome.
Yeah, so they learned from bees who have already done it. They learned more, they can do it more efficiently if they already watched it. It's pretty amazing.
It's crazy.
And these are tasks that have nothing to do with their evolutionary history.
No.
Like it just said, there's no reason why a bee should be good at getting a ball into a hole.
No.
They've never needed to do it to survive. Alright.
I like that. Cool.
So
thank you to the Queen Mary University of London.
Thank you
for that video. Appreciate that. Yeah, go on, Tom. Sorry.
I was gonna say, is this just another case of humans making animals and bugs and things do things like humans just as a novelty? Or is there can we learn something about intelligence of bees from this?
Yeah, I think there is something to learn from this because it's totally fascinating that other species can perform tasks that they shouldn't be good at.
And they can just learn on the fly and just boom, we can do this now.
But again, yeah, I was saying this to you earlier that I don't...
You think we give them too much credit for doing human-like things? Like,
I don't know how well a measure of intelligence it is when you're measuring a skill of human intelligence that is being applied to a species that is not a human, right?
Exactly.
Like bees do bee things.
Yeah, they're
well.
really good at being bees. They're good at pollinating and doing their bee stuff.
That should be a measure of their intelligence intrinsically, whether or not they can perform tasks like humans. Yeah. And I'm not just saying, scoring a soccer goal. I'm saying learning from a fellow bee how to score a soccer goal. I don't know if that is really necessary to learn about the intelligence of a bee or applicable.
Yeah, I was thinking it might just show that a lot of different organisms use the social setting to learn the way things work, basically. You know, how else do you learn? Like if you're a new bee, you watch mama bee or dad bee do it, and then you do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of intuitive, you know? So it's cool to see the research actually point that out, that this is how bees learn. They're not just born with the blueprint of instructions, like they have to watch and learn, just like any other creature.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, though.
Yeah. So hopefully the bees don't all go extinct before they can learn to...
Yeah. So Kayla says bees are dying, but at least they can play soccer. Scott goes, unbelievable.
Very nice.
Exactly.
Appreciate that.
All right, and what's our last story?
Last story is a quick one. Number 6, Planet Earth 2, the BBC's awe-inspiring nature documentary series, premiered on February 18th in the United States. We mentioned that on last week's show. Wanted to just bring everybody up to speed on how it's doing. According to Realscreen.com, quote, the premiere became BBC America's most watched unscripted telecast in total viewers, with 2.7 million total viewers, including 1.2 million adults in the 25 to 54 demographic, end quote. Those are pretty impressive numbers, considering not all cable packages in the United States provide access to BBC America, which we learned the hard way.
How did we overcome that? Because we didn't get the channel.
No. So we had to sign in to Kate's mom's Optimum account, because she has the higher package, right, where you get BBC America.
So, we signed into that, say we're that account, and then we streamed it onto the TV.
Exactly. Such a hassle.
Just to watch Planet Earth.
Really obnoxious.
Yeah.
Really obnoxious.
But still, I wouldn't let that turn you off. Planet Earth is awesome.
No, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
And just to close it out here, the premiere was also aired on AMC Networks, who stated, quote, the premiere episode was the most watched nature program on U.S. television in 5 years.
And I think justly so. It's amazing.
It is
when you sit
awesome.
there and watch it and you see really what goes on in the lives of these animals. And it really puts in perspective what the Earth is, what these organisms have to do to survive, how they fit in that environment, and it's just an artfully beautiful description of life on the planet.
Yeah.
It's an amazing show. I'd say it's one of my favorite shows of all time.
Hands down.
It's
And
awesome.
shout out to the narration. Not only David Attenborough, who voices it and is brilliant in his own right. One of the best ever.
Yeah.
Let's just say it that way. But the scientists, the biologists, and the writers who write the narration, it's incredible, because
the story that they tell, right?
If you were to just be in the wild and to just happen upon, the snow leopards mating or whatever, I would have no idea what I'm looking at, But the way they write it and the way they tell the story from the perspective of an individual animal, it's so spot on. It's so spot on.
It's like they get into the head of the animals.
It's really cool. So we toyed around with the idea of going live, doing a react video after Planet Earth
to chat about it.
Yeah. We unfortunately couldn't last week because we had a malfunction with some of our equipment, but I'd like to know, chat, what do you think? Should we go live after episode 3 to give our impressions about Planet Earth's next installment?
Yeah, if there's anybody who's watching, would you like to chat with us afterwards?
Yeah.
Let us know. You can either tell us right now or get us during the week and say, I'm planning on watching.
Yeah, because we're definitely going to watch it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to watch it again.
Yeah. So let us know about that. With that said, that's all the news we have to cover.
Yep. Thanks for sticking around for this one.
Yeah.
A lot of cool space stuff. The space race is back.
Yeah, baby.
The bees are great.
Here we go.
A lot of great news stories.
Yeah. So, Tom, thanks for joining me on the show, and we will see you guys next week.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.